I was advised by Michael Meehan this week to go meet Leo Courtney. He is a Galway superfan. I hope Michael doesn't mind me mentioning that he told me to go meet you. But you know Michael quite well. You'd have spoken to him after plenty a game.
Oh yeah, I know Michael very well. Michael's our fourth top scorer in Galway's history. He has scored 14 goals and 112 points for Galway. Yes, I'm a great friend. I know Michael Meehan very well.
And you know his stats very well. Where does he rank in the pantheon of great Galway footballers?
Well, I have him on my canteen of great Galway footballers. I have him on the local paper there in my top three in the last 25 years.
Right.
That's how I rate him. I put Pádraic Joyce, Michael Donlan, Michael Meehan, and I suppose Jarlath Fallon and Tommy Mannion, Shane Welsh. You could go from 1 to 20 and you'd still leave someone out. And they said, but Michael, yes, he was in third place all, and but Shane just pipped him the last day. Shane has gone into third now. Okay. Michael is down to fourth, and Cyril Dunn from the three in a row is in fifth.
Right, very good. I am keen to talk about that three in a row team. When, before we do that though, was the first time you remember being at a big Galway match in Croke Park?
My first time at a big Galway match, believe it or not, in Croke Park was 67. That was at the league final in 67 between Galway and Dublin. Galway won at 12 points to Dublin won 7. Now, I don't think we've beaten Dublin in a major knockout game, well, semi-final or final stage, since that game in 67. It was the end of the first recall the Galway three in a row was in 63. We came through in Connacht and we beat Kerry in the All-Ireland semi-final. It was a low-scoring first half, 4 points to 1, but Galway came out in the second half. Kerry were leading halfway through the second half, 7 points to 2. And then Pat Donlan, of all people, a midfielder, Pat was at the right spot. He scored a goal. We got right back in it, and we won 1-7 to 8 points. Dublin beat us in the final. Now, we beat ourselves in the sense that we had 12 wides. Dublin had only 4. Dublin scored 1-9 and we got 10 points. We were disappointed, but it was probably a blessing in this stars because we're a young team. And in 64, who did we meet in the All-Ireland final? Kerry. It was a cracking game, 15 points to 10. All of the Galway 6 forwards scored that day, with Cyril Dunn getting 9. A great win, and there was an old man up this side of the country at the time, and he says, well, to beat Kerry in an All-Ireland, it's worth 2 All-Irelands. We did it again in 65. Then the three in a row was completed in 1966 when we beat the Royal Meath, 1-10 to 7 points. Matty McDonough got a goal, and Matty was the Texaco winner. There was the old Texaco Award. Now it's Player of the Year. It was Player of the Year. That time it was the Texaco Award. Matty was the Player of the Year in 66. Noel Tierney was the Player of the Year in 64. And Martin Newell was the Player of the Year in 65. And when we came out of Croke Park in 66, if you were told back then that you wouldn't win another All-Ireland until 98, you would say there was something somewhere wrong. I'm looking forward to Sunday. Now, Kerry comes their side of the draw, and Limerick, and they beat Cork. Beginning maybe to, but they just don't seem... a great game with Dublin. That was a fantastic kick, all fairness. It was a huge kick. 1 minute before the semi-final, 1 minute I'd want Dublin, another minute I'd want Kerry. But at the end of the day, I was saying to myself, Kerry, they're country people like ourselves, and
also it's worth 2 if you win.
It's worth, well, we'll take 1 if we win. It's worth 2 if we win. Yeah, we have good forwards. In fairness, Shane Welsh and Robbie Finnerty and Comer, of course. Comer's flying this year. He has something like 2-9 scored from play in the championship. I think he has 10-44 scored in his championship career. But yes, 10-44. But yeah, and a few more, Paddy Kelly. But everyone, the only worry I would have now, and I hope I'm wrong, because I want an All-Ireland. I'm a man in a hurry. I'd love an All-Ireland. Is our bench strong enough? That would be my
concern.
Yeah. Other than that, but knowing Pádraic, and I rang Pádraic last Sunday week after the Dublin Kerry game because I've been good friends with him, and I said, Pádraic, he said he'd have his team ready, and I believe he'll have them ready.
So you have a hotline to the Galway manager. Can you give us any secrets before this weekend?
No secrets whatsoever. I'd be just a good friend of him. Myself and Pádraic's dad, Paddy, used to come back here to me. We were always great friends. First got to know the Joyces, got to know, well, I knew Willie all my life, but I knew the late Pádraic's dad, Paddy, and it was through colleges. I have I love underage football in college. In 1994, in Jarlath won the Hogan Cup, and Pádraic was captain. And ever since that, we had a great minor team that year. We got to the All-Ireland final, but there was a team with a letter K waiting for us. And in fact, I think that Kerry team that beat Galway only got about 2 players that went on to play for the county team. We actually got more out of that minor team in 1994, as I think of it now, than any minor team that ever won an All-Ireland in Galway. We got 7 or 8 players out of it.
Can I ask then just about some of the specific players of Galway in the 50s and 60s? Sean Purcell was maybe a little bit before your time, but you saw a bit of him.
I saw a bit of him, yeah. Sean was the end of his career when I was going out starting the football. Well, in the 60s, of course, I know them. John Keenan and Cyril Dunn, Matty McDonough, Garrett and Rillans in the middle of the field, Christy Tyrrell, Liam Salmon. I'd be a good friend of Liam. And you had the Donlans, John and Pat, Noel Tierney, the great fullback, and Johnny Geraghty, all them in the 60s now were into Collarton, Indy captain is the late Indy.
Is Sean Purcell considered the greatest Galway footballer of all time?
Yes, by many, yeah, the greatest footballer of all time, and even by the legendary Micheál O'Murray in his book rated Sean Purcell. And when you have a Kerry man with all the great players that rating Sean Purcell, he must have been the greatest.
What did people say about him?
Well, they said he could play in any position.
Okay.
I think he played in the Connacht semi-final in Tuam in 1954 against Mayo on an awful wet day, and he played at full back. And they put 5 different players on him, they couldn't get past him.
Right. But in the team of the century there, he's listed at 11.
Yeah, he was always there, but he could play anywhere. As they say, he could play anywhere, Sean Purcell.
Right. Well, did he play everywhere?
He did, really. Centre field, maybe full back. Definitely full back. I don't know whether he played centre back. He played full forward, centre forward, midfield. He played colleges with Jarlath in 48, 47. They won the Hogan Cup. He was a midfielder. And Frankie Stockwell himself had a great understanding. They were known back then as the Terrible Twins.
Stockwell was another midfielder.
Stockwell was a full forward.
Okay.
And Purcell, there was a great story told about the 1957 league final when it was level with about 5 minutes to go with Kerry, and there was a fellow called Ned Roach. He was playing full back for Kerry, and he was marking Purcell and doing a pretty good job on him. But anyhow, Purcell gets the ball and he goes out towards the sideline, toe to hand, and Ned went with him and he threw it over his shoulder into the path of Stocky, Frankie, and he stuck it in the net. And that was the game. The game. And there was the legendary story told about Pat Donlan in 63. They claimed down in Kerry that Pat Donlan was on his knee, hurt a bit, but he got up awful quick and scored the goal. And of course, Matty tells the story, the late Matty McDonough. He tells the story about 1906, the National Football League, the home final of 65. There was a trip to America at stake. But coming up with about a minute or two to go, Kerry had just taken the lead. A great Kerry player called Bernie O'Callaghan just put Kerry ahead 8 points to 7. But Galway come up the field and Matty gets the goal ball, whether he touched it on the ground, it's hard to know, but into Seamus Leyden, a cracking goal, and Galway won. But about 40 years later, Matty was playing golf below in some part of Kerry. And this old man was walking along and he said, Matty McDonough from Galway. He said, Matty, you picked the ball off, you fouled the ball. I didn't, he said, I don't understand golf. I'm playing it. I don't mean that little ball you're playing out there. He said, you fouled the ball in 65. They never forget. That's one thing Kerry never forget.
Absolutely not.
They're still, I think, talking about the famous 82 final, the Seamus Darby goal. So
that'll still be talked about for a long, long time yet. Yeah, that's really interesting. Like, then when it comes to like the nationwide appreciation of those Galway players, like obviously there was huge appreciation within this county, but when it comes to say like the team of the century, the team of the millennium, like the national one, who else other than Purcell makes those teams?
Well, on the centenary year, Indy Collin and Sean Purcell, Indy at number 2 and Sean Purcell at centre forward. And at the turn of the century again, the millennium team, it was the same 2 players.
Same 2, okay. It's interesting. Then it is mad. I didn't realise that he played full back because, like as you say, there he's at 11 in your Galway team at a century, and obviously I've seen very very little of him. I always had him down as like a midfielder or a centre forward, but he could have been one of the great all time full backs had he been played there all the time.
Full back, yeah. He played against Mayo and they won the toss and they led 2-3 to a point at half time, and there was a storm out, a bad July day. We normally don't get an odd one, but he still held Mayo out and they won 2-4 to 1-5. Okay. Our own club man from Carlos Stranier scored a goal and 2 points that day, Tom McHugh. Sean he must have been a genius, really. Everyone talks about him. Mm-hmm. And
did you ever get to meet him?
Oh, I did, of course.
Yeah.
Oh, I got to meet him, yeah.
What was he like?
He had always a great word. How's it going, Sham? Well, that's the word they use in Tuam. Sean I got to know him very, very, very well.
Was he interested in Gaelic games after his playing days?
He was, but he was also interested. I remember we going up one night up to a place in Athenry, Jerry Corbett. He has a GAA museum up there, and we were brought up.
Perfin, right?
He's above in Athenry. We went up and a neighbour, a man over in Corofin there, Paddy Keaton and myself, and we brought Frank Stockwell and Sean Purcell. But Sean was very interested in looking at, not at the old football we look back, but looking at dog racing. He loved the greyhounds.
Right.
Such a greyhound won this, and there was a story told one time in '59 about a greyhound that night for in All Ireland, Sean had a greyhound running in Shelburne Park, and Star Bright, and he won. But I reckon Sean brought the greyhound back down to Tuam that night, and the next day was the All Ireland final. But that's the way it was back then.
Okay, so he travelled up and down from Dublin twice in the one weekend.
Twice in one weekend, yeah. He was that type of. He was a gentleman. Died far too young, I think. But that's. Yeah, I knew Sean. I knew Frankie Stockwell very well, and
the dogs was probably one of the reasons that Micheál Mara Hurtig took such a warming to Shawnee Purcell as well, because he would have been big into the dogs and his nights at Shelburne.
Big in Shelburne, and they went to school, to college together. They were both teachers.
That's right.
They went to college, and Micheál's first commentary, I think, in a match was 1949, which was a very big back then, the Railway Cup.
Yeah, huge. And Purcell was obviously an icon of the Railway Cup.
Icon of the Railway Cup, the same as Christy Ring was with the Munster hurlers in the Railway Cup.
Do you think enough people know about Sean Purcell in the modern era? Because he is this legendary figure, kind of like Ring, where a lot of people, we know the name, but none of us have seen enough footage, because there isn't enough footage out there. Do you think that in the modern day he's appreciated enough?
Well, I suppose it's a different game. I'd say an awful lot. Well, I suppose in the modern day wouldn't know of, but yeah, he would be very appreciated, certainly in all over Connacht. He'd be appreciated, certainly in the older generation. The younger, it would be very hard to tell. Well, there was a story told that grey bearded men, back then there was something wrote in a paper that grey bearded men would tell the story of the terrible twins, Purcell and Stockwell, would tell their children's children of the terrible twins. But it's like telling a young lad today now that idolises Shane Welsh or idolises Dave Clifford about the Bomber Liston or about Mike Sheehy or about Cyril Dunn or Sean Purcell. You know, it's in the times, I suppose.
I know this is a difficult question, but if you had to pick one modern footballer that resembled Purcell the most, who would it be?
Kieran Kilkenny.
Okay, right.
Yeah. I think he's related, I think, to Purcell.
Yes, actually, yeah.
Kieran Kilkenny, I think he's excellent. As is was that he's retired now, Bernard Brogan. To me, was a classic as well. Kieran Kilkenny, I would reckon, on that.
Yeah, Kieran Kilkenny and Tommy Carr, right, are descendants of the great Sean Purcell.
Yeah, Tommy Carr. Tommy Carr is married to Sean Purcell's daughter.
Yes.
And Kieran Kilkenny's father, I think, was first cousin to Sean Purcell.
Kilkenny's not bad.
Oh, Kilkenny, wish to God we had him on Sunday. I would love him. He's super football. And that's his relation to that Niamh Kilkenny that plays with the Galway Camogie girls. Another team that's filled our heart the last couple of years with the Camogie they're playing. And I love that game as well, the winning 2 All-Irelands out of 3.